Good afternoon, my bookish friends. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you clicked on my channel because that lets me know that we are bookish friends and I am just so here for it. First, let's get this out of the way. If you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. There should be a little button on this side, I believe. It should say Yolanda's books in black and green. And if you click on that button, it will send you to some notification bells. Click all, and you will never miss me when I am on YouTube. First and second of all, I would like to thank all of my subscribers, all of my followers for following me here on Yolanda's Books. I have really been enjoying the interaction with you guys, and I just love talking about books with y'all. It is such a great thing that we have that we love to do together as a family. So today, guys, I'm not going to hold you long. I just want to give you guys my April TBR, all the books that I would love to read in the month of April. All right, y'all. So I am going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to give you guys all these books by genre. I think I have like 20 books on this TBR. Maybe some of the books will change. Maybe they will not. Y'all know I do love a great romance book. That is like my best genre that I like to read. I just like the light, fluffy, romantic, second chance at romance, enemies to lovers, pregnancy tropes, true love type books most of the time. And especially when it is in the summertime, I like to read more of like light fluffy reads that will just have me giggling and laughing and be like, oh, that is just so cute. Oh, he was so nice. Just like all the things. And periodically, I'm not gonna lie, I do like to read the thriller books. It just sometimes depends on the weather, or if I'm just tired of the light fluffy reads and I want to do something a little different. Of course, I love historical fiction, literary fiction, and urban fiction, which I have just started to read, listening and looking at Kalila D's channel. And y'all, let's just get straight into this TBR. So first, we're going to start with all the romance books that I have on my TBR to read for April. And I'm just so excited that I'm actually sectioning them off by genre. That way I can give you guys a better take on the books that I am going to read. Like if you really didn't know what genre they are, I just think it's just so cool being able to do it that way. But anyway, the first book that we're going to start with is The Neighbor Favor by Christina Forster. I have been watching a lot of different people talk about this this series of books. I think you can also read them as a standalone, but I'm not really sure. And I'm not really sure what the actual series name is for this book, but I am just so interested in reading. This one is called The Neighbor Favor. It says a shy bookworm enlists her charming neighbor to help her score a date, not knowing he's the obscure author she's been corresponding with in this sparkling and heart-fluttering romance by Christina Forrest. So I think it's pretty much of like she actually was like crushing on a author that she did not actually know that was her neighbor, and then it just goes from there. Shy, bookish, and admittedly awkward, Lily Green has always felt inadequate compared to the rest of her accomplished family, who strives for black excellence. She dreams of becoming a children's book editor, but she's been frustratingly stuck in the nonfiction division for years without a promotion in sight. Lily finds escapism in her correspondence with her favorite fantasy author. And what begins as two lonely people connecting over emails turns into attentive friendship and possibly something else Lily won't let herself entertain until he ghosts her without a word. Months later, Lily is still crushed, but she's determined to get a hold of her life, starting with finding a date for her sister's wedding. The perfect person to help her is Nick Brown, her charming, attractive new neighbor, who she feels drawn to for reasons she can't explain. But little does she know, Nick is an author, her favorite fantasy author. So I just think that that is going to be so cute, so romantic. And like, I'm hoping that the storyline in this book is just so dramatic, so descriptive. And I just can't wait to read this book, y'all. The next one is a book that one of my work friends have been dying for me to read. These are actually her set of books. I have all of her sets of books, and I just got to get them read, y'all. I just really got to get them read. This is the second book in this series, and it is called The Master and the Marriott Marinette, book 2 by Brandy Elsie, whatever that last name is, y'all. But this is actually a romance book, y'all. I would not have believed that this book is a romance book because of the way the cover looks. The cover looks like it could be like a fantasy or mystery thriller book, but it is not. It is actually a romance book. I read book 1. Did I like it? Kind of. I really can't say that I was in love with it. So I guess that is what's making me so not wanting to read the second book, but I am going to start this one. And it says Skyline has left the Chandelier City, the Emerald Lake Asylum, and the twisted social restraints of women to run away with the patient everyone fears, Dennison. As they hid in the uncharted forest surrounding the city, Skyline learns that the mystery of the infamous patient 13 is far from over. There are still the missing pieces of her past and the missing plan that relies on Skyline's trusting Dennison, which is patient 13, with blind faith. And with each dangerous situation comes to a new altar, a new personality to meet, a new man that deepens her attraction. So I don't know how excited I am to actually read this book, y'all, but like I said, I am gonna read it because one of my friends from work is dying for me to read it, and I gotta get them read if I'm going to read them and get her books back. The next one is Confessions of an Alleged Good Girl by Joy Goffney. I want to say is that patient, y'all. I just got off a 6-day stretch, and that's all I've been saying. This author's name, she actually wrote Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, and I did read that book. I don't remember what I put the ratings for on Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, but I think it was a pretty fair book to read. You know how you get to some of them of where you enjoyed the book while you was reading it, but you just do not remember what the book was actually about. And that's me. Some of the books that I rate like 3-star, 3.5 star, it's like I really enjoyed that book while I was reading it, but will I remember that book, and will I actually like pick that book up to put on a short or reel or something and said this is a book to read? I don't remember that for Excuse Me While I Ugly Cry, but I think it was a pretty okay book. So this one is about Monique and Reggie. So it says Monique is a preacher's daughter who detests the impossible rules of her religion. Everyone expects her to wait until marriage. She has no one to turn to when she discovers that she physically can't have sex. After 2 years of trying and failing, her boyfriend breaks up with her. To win him back, Monique teams up with a straight-laced church girl, Sasha, who is surprisingly knowledgeable about Monique's condition, as well as Reggie, the misunderstood bad boy who always makes a ruckus at church. Together they embark upon a top secret search for the cure. While on her quest, Monique learns to live her for herself, inspire us all to reclaim our bodies and unapologetically love ourselves. So this seems like it could possibly also be like a body positivity, like self-love type book. And BuzzFeed says a triumph in not just dynamic contemporary fiction, but also a cultural and the harm it can do. It says contemporary fiction, but I thought it was pretty much like a romance book in the romance era. But again, like it just kind of like reminds me of, what was that book? Curvy Girl Summers. Kind of reminds me of that, of like a self-care, self-love, body positivity type book. So we will be reading Confessions of an Alleged Good Girl. We have to have a Brittany Cherry book, y'all. This one is the first book in the Element series. It's called The Air He Breathes by Brittany Cherry. I have read a few books by this author, and she is a Black author. I love reading books by Black authors. I love giving them the hype that they are so truly deserves. And Brittany Cherry is one of those authors, y'all. Usually when I read a lot of my books, I try to have as many Black authors in the stack as I can. I love Brittany Cherry. I love Kennedy Ryan, like all those types of Black authors, Gray Huffington, Christina Jones. I love those types of authors to read books by because of the different genres and the different storylines and banters and plots that they have in their books. The Air He Breathes by Brittany Cherry. It says it's easy to judge a man because of his past, to look at Tristan and to see a monster, but I cannot do that. I had to accept the wreckage that lives inside of him because it always lives inside of me. We are both empty. We are both looking for someone else, something more. We both wanted to put together the shattered pieces of our yesterdays. So I love when a book has a very short, dainty synopsis to it, because it really draws me to wanting to read what this book is about. Like, what is the connection between Tristan and whoever the other character is in this book? What wreckage is putting a damper in like Tristan's life? Like, just what happens or what has happened to Tristan Cole to get to the point in this book. So I am very intrigued to read this book. One of them says a hunting love story. I was warned about Tristan Cole. Stay away from him. People said he's cruel, he's cold, he's damaged. So that makes me just like, because on the back of the book, like, other people say that, or like you might see this actually in the book, but like, why? Like, what's going on? Like, why is Tristan Cole so damaged? It just, that just makes me want to just really read that book. So I want to read a Tia Williams book. I haven't read one in quite some time. So we're going to read 7 Days in June. This is a Reese's book club pick. I have read a few books by her as well and have truly enjoyed her writing. This one says Eva is a single mom and best-selling writer who is feeling pressed from all sides. Shane Hall is a awarding novelist who, to everyone's surprise, shows up in New York when Shane and Eva meets unexpectedly at a Black literary event. Sparks fly, but what no one knows is that 15 years ago, earlier, teen Eva and Shane spent one crazy week madly in love and have been secretly writing to each other in books ever since. Like, y'all, see, that is what I'm talking about. I love to read books of second chance romance, love over time, just all the things, guys, because it makes me smile so hard. Over the next 7 days, 7 days in June, Steamy Brooklyn summer, Eva and Shane reconnects, but Eva's weary of the man who broke her heart. Before Shane disappears again, she needs a few questions answered. With this keen observation of creative life in America today, as well as the joys and complications of being a mother and a daughter, 7 Days in June is a hilarious, romantic, and sexy as hell story of two writers discovering their second chance at love. So, 7 Days in June by Tia Williams. One of my other book friends at work told me about the Ravenhood series by Kate Stewart. Flock is the first book in this series, and I never or did not know anything about this book, but when I looked it up as far as the genre, I would have never thought that it was in the romance section, but it is. Can you keep a secret? It's Flock. And just by looking at the cover of this book and everything, guys, I just would not have thought that it had anything to do with romance, especially like if I have not read the back of the book. So it says the one thing Cecilia Horner knows about her move to Triple Falls is it'll be temporary. After 1 year working for her exclusive father at his factory, he'll hand over the inheritance she needs to help her single mother. With that, Cecilia will leave the town and everyone in it behind forever. On her first day, she collides with her new supervisor, Cian. He's charming, irresistible, charismatic. Cian allures Cecilia into a new world of sex, lies, and alliance. Determined to make the most of her time in Triple Falls, Cecilia allows herself to blindly fall, I guess, in love, y'all. But the more Cecilia is drawn in, the stronger her belief becomes that Cian is keeping a secret. A secret that Dominique, Cian's best friend and the darkest, most dangerous member of his crew, is determined to keep Cecilia from uncovering. Wow. Cecilia discovers something else, an untapped desire within herself, along with a powerful pull of first love. The more Cecilia becomes immersed in Cian and Dominique's world, the more she starts to realize that the men she trusted are hiding far more than she could have ever imagined. And the secret they're hiding just might be the thing to break her fall. I don't know. Sounds like it could be a very interesting book. I'm curious to see what secret they are keeping. And this is the first book in the Ravenhood series that we will read in April. We are finally getting to read The 7-Day Slip by Ashley Poston. I don't know about you guys, but if a book is getting a tremendous amount of hype, like when it comes out, people are talking about this book all the time. They have given their reviews of this book. I feel like at that particular time, I have actually read the book. So it'll be always quite some time, if I can, before I will actually read the book. So it's kind of like I forgot what the people said about the book. So it'll feel like I have read this book for the first time. So that's what this one is for me, is the first time that I've ever heard about this book, wanted to read this book, because like the hype of this book is gone now. Ashley Poston, The 7-Day Slip. Imola says a romantic and irresistible. Ashley Poston also wrote The Dead Romantics, which is one of the other books on my shelf that I would love to get to read. Carly Fortune, which I'm not that big of a fan of a Carly Fortune book, but she says a gorgeous love story from one of the finest romantic writers out there. Same place, different time. Sometimes the worst of your life happens and you have to figure out how to live after it. For Clementine West, This means burying her head in her work as a book publicist, being practical and forgetting the silly things her beloved auntie Alana taught her, like living wide and chasing the moon. Clementine would rather stay grounded and keep her heart safe. For the last 6 months, she's done just that. I love the name Clementine. But when she moves into her late auntie's apartment and finds a strange man standing in the kitchen, a man with kind eyes, a southern drawl, and a taste for lemon pies, her well-laid plan begins to fall apart, because he's the type of man who, before it all, she would have fell head over heels for, and still might. Except he exists in the past, 7 years in the past to be exact, and she quite literally lives 7 years in his future. Her aunts always said the apartment was a pension time, a place where moments blended like watercolors. She also said that love is never a matter of time, but a matter of timing. And Clementine fears she might be 7 years too late. Oh, guys, that's going to be so cute. I really think that is going to be so cute. A lady that I follow on YouTube, she actually did a vlog on this book. And the interesting thing about her book review or her reading vlog on this book was that she actually, during the time that she was reading the book and telling us about the book, she was actually making a lemon pie. So I thought that was kind of cute. I thought that was a cute reading vlog for this book, since it revolves around a lemon pie and Clementine. So interested in reading that book. I just cannot wait. The next book in the romance series that we are reading is Behind the Scenes by Christina C. Jones. I am actually reading this book as we speak, and I am so loving this book, y'all. I just love this type of genre because in certain scenes of the book or chapters of the book, it is hot and steamy, and then in certain chapters of the book, it is a little mellow but not so hot and steamy. But when it does get hot and steamy, and like the things they say to each other, the way they say it, how they feel about each other, and then like their life as it goes on is just the freaking best. So this one is pretty much about Logan and is it Pierce? I think his name is Pierce. I think that's how they pronounce his name. They actually meet by she had an accident, and those two were the actual two people that was involved in the accident. They got together that same night, and everything just kind of flies from there. I want to be able to finish the book before I actually give a synopsis of the book, because y'all, it is so hard talking about a book that you really and truly love and not give spoilers away in this book. So I'm gonna just read the back of this book. Perfect, privileged, strong, spoiled, uptight, useless. If there's any one thing Pierce and Logan have in common, it's their ability to invite snap judgment based on shallow visits of who they are. Logan is a privileged only daughter of a respected family whose legacy runs long and deep. Pierce is the moody orphan son of big screen royalty, who can't possibly live up to the prestige of his pedigree, or maybe not. Who can possibly live up to the prestige of his pedigree or not. Perhaps they're just two people trying to navigate the pressures of the world, hell-bent on telling them what they should be and the limits of their own people's expectations. Maybe what they need most is somebody who can see beyond the shallow first impressions. Just one person they can allow to see behind the scenes of who they are. maybe they have more in common than it seems. So I think Logan, I think she actually is in a relationship, and it is kind of like a relationship that was picked or destined for her. And then these two meet, and they kind of have like the same type of lifestyle. I don't know about the love life of Pierce, but I do know that like Logan, she has actually been picked a guy to actually date. So y'all, this book, I think I'm probably like not quite halfway into this book, but I am just loving the scenes in this book. I'm loving the dialogue in this book. I'm loving the spiciness in this book, and I'm loving the, how can I say it? It's like they are using each other to overcome the irritations and the feelings that they feel because of what their family is expecting of them. And I just can't wait to the end of this book to see like how they grow within each other and actually become just one of themselves. You know what I'm saying? So that is the romance books that we will be reading in the month of April. So another, we're not finished. We have one more romance book that we will be reading in the month of April. And I don't have the physical book, but I'll pop up a picture of the book somewhere in the screen. It's called Lyric by Gray Huffington. Y'all, I read Luca by Gray Huffington, and I fell in love with that book. I fell in love with Gray Huffington's writing right then and there with Luca. Luca was a great book. It was full of trigger warnings as far as mental, physical abuse, bad relationship, and then it turned around to pure love, pure satisfaction, true love, and just getting away from a bad situation. Luca in that book was, oh my God, every time I hear him talk on the audio, I just picture my own personal Luca. He was a major, huge commodity in the streets, but such a lover as far as home and family. And he was very, very adamant about his family. And I just love that in a man. So the second book in, and I think it's called the, gosh, it just hit my mind. It just slipped my mind. The, hold on, y'all. What is the name of that? The Eisenberg Effect. I think it's called the Eisenberg Effect. But anyway, the second book in that series is the Lyric by Gray Huffington. And it's just pretty much about a sister and one of the dedicated homeboys of Luca and their pretty much love story. And guys, I got to give it to you. Now, Luca, it was a spicy read, but Lyric is the spiciest one that I have started reading yet in the Gray Huffington series. I really want to read the rest of the books in this Gray Huffington series, the Eisenberg's Effect. And I think the books are pretty much about each person. Like Luca, Lyric is the sister, and then the brother, and then the one that Lyric is actually dating. So I'm very, very interested in reading all the books in that series. Like I said, I don't have the actual book in hand to read the synopsis to you, but I can look it up on Goodreads and read it to you. It says she's a gem and on an entirely different level than the women I am accustomed to. She's loyal and about her paper. That's why I sacrificed the only friendship I've ever known. Wait for however long it takes for her to be ready, and happily sever ties with anyone who didn't agree with or was against our union. Because the little spoiled brat that I once considered off limits had given me a taste of her forbidden fruit. And for nothing, I stopped to maintain the privilege of burying my seeds in her garden. Y'all, I'm reading this on Goodreads, and I don't know, I think this is the first time I've actually read this book description of the book, and like, it is, you can tell it's a hot and steamy book. He's a friend and doesn't mind risking it all for me. The truth is, I just can't get enough of him. From his jet black skin and his addictive smile, he has me in a chokehold. However, our union isn't as simple as we wish it was. That's why I cannot see myself breaking my brother's heart, destroying my only family's dynamic, or disappointing the man that means the most to me to be with him. I'd already cost him enough pain and suffering for the sake of love. I cannot bring myself to do it again. Y'all, this book is great. It's great. I got to give it to you. If you like street activity, if you like a lot of hot sex, if you like like the man being the dominant person in the relationship, but also you have a woman that is ahead of her game, ahead of her financial game, her relationship game, her personal game, you will love Lyric by Gray Huffington. Like I said, I am not done with the book. I have been actually trying to read this book for quite some time because I've been trying to get myself more involved in reading on my ebook. But guys, I am loving this book so far, and I just cannot wait to actually finish it. And it is Lyric by Gray Huffington. Alright guys, so we have our thriller stack. Y'all know that a sister love a thriller book. And y'all know that I am a huge Freedom McFadden book when it comes down to thrillers, but I still love other thriller books as well. So we have 4 books on our thriller stack for the month of April. The first one is a Chelsea Satie book. I don't know how to quite say that name. Maybe I need to start looking up how to say these people's names before I actually get on here to tell y'all about these books. But hey, it's cool. It is called Tell Me What Really Happened. And I have been reading this book for quite some time. I cannot say that I did not finish this book because it wasn't a good book. I just got distracted by other books because y'all know I am a huge mood reader. And when I see a book that I actually want to read, I will put down another book to actually read that book. So I think that's what happened with Tell Me What Really Happened, because it's actually, if I can remember, which I'm remembering pretty good because it's a good book. It's actually a pretty good book. So it is a thriller book, and it's just pretty much about 5 teenagers who went down to a campsite for a weekend called Salvation Creek, and one of them did not return. And so the most interesting thing about this book is that it's telling a story, but it's telling the story as of the students are being interviewed by the detectives. And I thought that that was just such a clever way to write this book, with it being that somebody is actually missing. So that means that it is being told by at least 5 or 6 different POVs. And I think that is what is making this book so much more interesting to me, because it is so interesting that it's 5 of them that went to the same place, went to the same spot, and there's a different POV for each one of them on what actually happened. I think that is just the best way to write a book. And like I said, with it being like a ton of different interviews, I just think it was a great strategy for this author to actually write that book. The next one is The Other Black Girl. And I've had this book on my shelf for quite some time. It is written by a Black author. I do not know how to say her name, but I am so ready to get into this book. It is a Good Morning America book club pick. I have no idea what this book is about, or anything like that. So we will just read the synopsis on the back. 26-year-old editorial assistant Nyla Rogers is tired of being the only black employee at Wagner's Books. Fed up with the isolation and microaggression, she's thrilled when Harlem-born and bred Hazel starts working in the cubicle beside her. They've only just begun comparing natural hair regimens. I would like to get in on that conversation. Though when a string of uncomfortable events elevates Hazel to office darling and Nyla is left in the dust. As Nyla starts to spiral and obsess over the sinister forces at play, she soon realizes there's a lot more at stake than her career. Having joined Wagner Books to honor the legacy of Burning Heart, a novel written and edited by the two black women, she thought this was the relic of the past. Is Nyla ready to take on the fight of a new generation? I mean, I don't know. I don't know what I think about that synopsis either, y'all, because that like really doesn't give me too much about like what this book is about. The perfect mix of social, contemporary, and fast-paced thriller. The sharp, compulsive thriller you need. Harris isn't afraid of taking risks in this book, pushing the plot of thriller heights, funny and subversive. I don't know. I don't even know what I think about this book, guys. I just hope that it is a good book to read. This is a Netflix movie that I have seen on a number of different occasions, but as anyone knows that know me, I love to read books that I have actually saw the movie to, because the book has so much more than the movie has, and I'm just so here for that. But this one is called The Good Nurse by Charles Gardner. And I also love to read books that has something to do with like the medical field, with me being in the medical field daily when I am at work. So this book is just like right up my alley. After his December 2003 arrest, nurse Charles Cullen was quickly dubbed the Angel of Death by the media, but he was no mercy killer nor a simple monster. Cullen was at times a trusted colleague, a beloved father, and a best friend. He was also perhaps the most prolific serial killer in American history, and implemented in the deaths of over 400 patients. Cullen's murderous career spanned 16 years in 9 hospitals. Now in a riveting piece of investigative journalism, Charles uncovers how Cullen's gamed the system and tells the unbelievable true story of the confidential informant acts to risk her life and career to betray a friend and finally stop a serial killer, based on extensive, never before seen evidence and years of exclusive jailhouse conversation with Cullen himself. The Good Nurse is a mesmerizing and irresistibly paced portrait of medicine and madness. This book will make you look at hospitals and people who work in them in an entirely different way. So if I'm not mistaken, like this book is pretty good. I seen the movie to this book, and when I actually found out and seen how and all the things of how he was actually doing his murderous activity, it was like, it was scary. It was scary because like, I don't know if I'll ever be in the hospital station. I don't know, like my family has been in the hospital station, and I just hope there was nobody that was taking care of my family members, excuse me, at that time that had that murderous thought of mine, or like read this book or looked at that movie and kind of wanted to be a copycat good nurse. And the best part about this book to me is that these are true stories. Like, these things actually, you know, really happen in those 9 hospitals and those 400 patients that were actually murdered. The next one and the last one in the thriller series is a Kaylee Patrick book. Never heard of this author before. Never read a book by this author. And it is called 10 Hours to Go. I picked up this book out of Barnes and Noble because I thought the cover was just so dainty and nice, cute for a thriller. But I know nothing about this book. Some friends are like wildfires. They can turn against you in an instant. Don't let in the cold. She also wrote Don't Let in the Cold, and the cover of that book looks fairly nice. Lily needs a ride. A fire warning in Oregon has canceled her train home to California. Her best friend, Natasha, has offered to pick Lily up on her way back to Portland, though they're barely on speaking terms. As it turns out, Natasha's only giving a ride to Ellie, the girl Lily get expelled from their school 4 years ago. Alec hasn't forgotten, and neither has Natasha. It's getting tense in the car, and it's not just about the past. There's smoke in the air with the wildfires nearby. Staying on the road is becoming risky by the hour. When Natasha and Alec decides to take a detour, Lily hopes it'll get them out of danger. She has no idea, though, what her former friends have planned for her. But as night comes, the plans change again when it becomes all too clear that leaving the main road was a mistake. Now the 3 of them are trapped in the woods under a burning sky with no easy way out. To survive, Lily must depend on Alec and Natasha. But after all that's happened, can she trust them with her life? So I'm very interested to know, like, what happened between them to get them to the point of where this book is going. So 10 Hours to Go. Very interested in reading this thriller for April. Historical fiction is the genre that we will talk about next. That is on my TBR for April. If y'all know me, you know me. I have really gotten into historical fiction right now, and I have 3 of them on my April TBR. The first one that we're going to talk about, guys, is a very hyped up book and a very new book to the book talk world. It is Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murphy. She is the actual author that writes books together with Marie Benedict. And this is the first book that I am actually reading by this author that is a standalone. I want to say that she has other books that she has written besides the books that she has actually written with the other author, Marie Benedict, but I have to look that up to actually see what those books are. And just by looking at the picture of the author, Victoria Christopher Murphy, she is a beautifully beautiful Black woman with natural hair and just all the things. And I am just so excited to read this book of hers, Harlem Rhapsody. The cover of this book is just so stunning because it just really puts out Harlem and the Black community, and I just love that about a book. And then on the back of the book, she has like different photos of like Black people doing different Black things, Black culture things. I actually looked at a interview that somebody had on Instagram when they were interviewing Victoria Christopher Murphy, and she has such a beautiful soul. By listening to her talk, she has some overachieving things that she had to actually go through, and all the things to get her book out there. With Harlem Rhapsody, she did a ton of research when it came down to writing this book, and I'm just so happy and so glad to be able to be a owner of this book by sorry y'all, my books fail, by Victoria Christopher Murphy. This is a historical fiction book. It says, in 1919, a high school teacher from Washington, D.C. arrives in Harlem, excited to realize her lifelong dreams. Jessie Redmond has been named the literary editor of The Crisis, the first black woman to hold this position at a predominant Negro magazine. Jessie is posed to achieve literary greatness, but she holds a secret that jeopardizes it all. W.B.D. Du Bois, the founder of The Crisis, is not only Jessie's boss, but her lover. And neither his wife nor their 14-year age difference can keep them two apart. I mean, that is just so cute. And guys, Victoria Christopher Murphy, she had brought up a very good point when she was talking about this book. You know, like right now in this time and age, like somebody would call Jessie like a whore, you know, a home wrecker, like all the things. But she really opened my eyes to reading historical fiction, because she was like, before you do the judgment, think about the time that the book was actually written in. Research things that happen as far as what you would call affairs and all that kind of stuff during that particular era. And it will give you a whole nother take on how you feel about the person in this book and what they are doing and what they are going through. I thought that was a very good note, a very good observation that she gave us during that interview, because I looked it up and it is like a totally different way, or a totally different meaning back in the historical fictions about what Jessie and W.D. Du Bois has going on. So I just wanted to shoot that in there, because I was thinking when I first read the synopsis before I seen the interview with Victoria Christopher Murphy, I was thinking the same way, because I live in this era, and in the historical fiction era, it was totally different. Rumors of their affair, Jessie is determined to prove herself. She attacks the challenge of discovering young writer with fierce, finding 16-year-old Count T. Cullen, 17-year-old Langston Hughes, and Nesla Larson, who becomes one of her best friends. Under Jessie's leadership, the Crisis thrives, and every African American writer in the country wants their work published there. When her first novel is released to great acclaim, it's clear that Jessie is at the heart of a renaissance in black music, theater, and the arts. She has shaped a generation of literary legends, but as she strives to preserve her legacy, she'll discover the high cost of her unparalleled success. So I am very, 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 very interested to read this book. I actually have a credit on my Audible account, so that is where this credit will go toward, is reading Harlem Rhapsody by Victoria Christopher Murphy. Y'all have no idea. Hold on. Y'all have no idea how excited I am to actually read that book. The other book, historical fiction, that we're going to read is by Collison Whitehead. It's called The Nickel Boys. They say it is a major motion picture. I don't know where this movie actually is. I will have to look it up, but I would like to look at the movie also. Shaughnessy, I think she actually looked at the movie before she read the book, and she said that book movie made her really want to read the book. This author also wrote The Underground Railroad, so I am very interested in reading this book. What was the book that I read before that actually jumped me into wanting to read The Nickel Boys? I don't remember. Dang, what was that book? Anyway, so we're gonna read The Nickel Boys. It says, when Elwood Curtis, a black boy growing up in the 1960s, Tallahassee, is unfairly sentenced a juvenile reformatory called the Nickel Academy. He finds himself trapped in a chamber of horrors. Elwood's only salvation is his friendship with the fellow delinquent Turner, which deepened despite Turner's conviction that Elwood is hopelessly naive, that the world is crooked, and that the only way to survive is to scheme and avoid trouble. As life at the academy becomes even more perilous, the tension between Elwood's ideas and Turner's skepticism leads to a decision with repercussions that will echo down the decades. Based on the real story of a reform school that operated for 111 years and warped the lives of thousands of children. It was The Reformatory. That is the book that I was thinking about. The Nickel Boys is a devastating, driven narrative that showcase a great American novelist writing at the height of his power. So, The Reformatory is the book that I was thinking about that I read before, and it kind of kicked me over to wanting to read The Nickel Boys. The Reformatory had me very, very upset. It had me with a lot of mixed emotions. The Florida soils have so much blood in them that people actually do not even really know unless you read the true stories about the schools that was back in that time, and like what these people actually went through in the schools. And I'm not talking about adults, I'm talking about kids. And it is just so devastating. It's heartbreaking. It has a lot of grief in it. And it also has a lot of black historical, cultural, heights about it. And what I mean by that is that it lets us see where we were coming from. It lets us see how much we have overachieved. It lets us see how much the people in the past went through for us to be where we are today, and for us to be treated the way we are treated, in a better sense than we used to be treated. So like, I'm just ready to read I'm just ready to read this book, and I just know that I'm gonna love this book. So the last one that we have is The Queen of Sugar Hill by Hattie McDaniel. I don't know what I thought this genre of this book was going to be, but I did not think it was a historical fiction genre. But it says it was supposed to be the highlight of her career, the pinnacle for which she's worked all her life. And as Hattie McDaniel take the stage in 1940s, to claim her honor, that would make her the first African American woman to win an Academy Award. She tearfully took her place in history. This historic night, where was I? The words are so small. Was going to be a life-changing, or so she thought. Months after her win, the Oscar cure set in. Hattie couldn't find work. She was thrust between two worlds, black and white, but she wasn't welcomed by either. Whites saw her only as a mummy, and blacks detested the demeaning portrayal. as the NAACP wags on all-out war against Hattie, she and others like herself, the emotional conflict act found herself struggling daily. Actor. Luckily, she had a core group of friends who helped and supported her, from Clark Gable to Lucy Beavers to Ruby Buckley Godwin and Dorothy Dambridge. Hattie continued her fight to pave the path of Negro actors that is still felt today, all while navigating her failed marriages, forcing on war efforts, and fighting the housing discrimination that made her the very queen of Sugar Hill. All right, so I don't know what my thoughts are on this book. I do have the audio to it, so hopefully that will make it all worthwhile of reading. But I am very interested in reading The Queen of Sugar Hill by Hattie McDaniel. Alright guys, so the last set of genres that we will be reading for the month of April is like literary fiction, fiction, adult fiction, just fiction books. I have 3 of them. 2 of them I have in hand, and then one of them I have on Hoopla, which is an audio book reading for Florida. And we'll start with that one. It is called Loveless by Alice Oseman. She is the author of the graphic novels, The Heartstoppers, and I just love those sets of graphic novels. I have them on my shelf, and I will not give them away because I just love the concepts of the books. And of course, it is of the queer genre. So, Loveless, I'm really not sure what that book is about because I have not even read the synopsis of that book. So we will do that together off of Goodreads. And it's called Loveless by Alice Oseman. And it says, it was all sinking in. I never had a crush on anyone. No boys, no girls, not a single person I have ever met. What did that mean? Georgia has never been in love, never kissed anyone, never even had a crush. But as a fanfic obsessed romantic, she's sure she'll find her person one day. As she starts university with her friends, Pip and Jason, in a whole new town far from home, Georgia's ready to find romance, and with her outgoing roommates on her side and a place in Shakespeare society, her teenage dream is in sight. But when her romance plan wreaks havoc amongst her friends, Georgia ends up in her own comedy of errors, and she starts to question why love seems so easy for other people but not for her. With new terms of throwing out her asexual aromatic, Georgia is more uncertain about her feelings than ever. Is she destined to remain loveless, or has she been looking for the wrong thing all along? This wise, warm, and witty story of identity and self-acceptance sees Alice Oseman on towering form as Georgia and her friends discover that true love isn't limited to romance. So, guys, is this a queer book as well? I don't know. Y'all drop it down in the comments if you have read Loveless by Alice Oseman. And like, is this a queer book? Because I know that she wrote The Heartstoppers and it is a queer read, but I'm not quite sure about this book. So Loveless by Alice Oseman is also on our TBR for our fiction reads. And I was searching my bookshelf to see what fiction books that I wanted to read, and this one popped up in my eyesight. Is Queenie by Candace Carthy Williams. I got this one actually from a Goodwill. It was like $2.99. I have been wanting to read this book for quite some time. This book actually reminds me of a movie that I seen, and I cannot think of the movie right off the top of my head. But if I do remember it or look it up, I will pop it up in the card in the screen somewhere. But I just love the cover of this book. It is like it's just the head, but it is our roots. It is the earrings, the box plaques. It's just look at the baby hairs, y'all. I just love the cover of this book. But it is called Queenie, and it says her boyfriend has asked her to leave their apartment. Her boss doesn't seem to see her. Her Jamaican British family doesn't seem to hear her. Her best friends tried but failed to help her. Queenie is in a spiral. As she comes from one questionable decision to another, she finds herself wondering, what are you doing? What are you doing? Why are you doing it? What do you want to be? All of the Quinderas today's women must face in a world trying to answer them for her. So that is very dainty, y'all. That is very dainty. That is extremely dainty. But whatever it is about Queenie, is like she has everything going against her, and I'm just so curious to see like how she overcomes all of those type of things, or whatever those things are. This book has a lot of dialogue in it, guys, and I am just so here for it. Like, it has text messages or something in it on a lot of these pages, and it has a lot of page breaks, so that means there's a lot of conversation going on. There's actually some resolutions and things that she writes in this book. So I think I am going to really enjoy this book just by looking at the writing style of the pages of this book. So I will be so happy to let you guys know how I feel about Queenie by Candace Carty Williams. The last book that we have for our April TBR is another fiction. I think this is like a literary fiction book, y'all. But I have been wanting to read this book like forever. I'm not going to lie. It is a Frederick Backman book. It is Bear Town. This book has been in and out of my hand for a hot minute now. So I definitely want to read this book in the month of April. I know I said that like a lot of these books might change before April is over, but I really do think that I am going to read this one. I think I got this book out of a little free library, actually, because I see a bookmark in this book that I did not put in this book. So or either I got it from a library sale. I'm not quite sure, but I know I did not buy this book as far as like the price range being very high. But it is Bear Town by Frederick Backman. People say Bear Town is finished, a tiny community nested deep in the forest. It is slowly losing ground to the evening encroaching trees, but down by the lake stand on an old ice rink, built generations ago by the working men who founded this town. And that ice rink is the reason people in Bear Town believes tomorrow will be better than today. Their junior ice hockey team is about to compete in the national semifinals, and they actually have a shot at winning. All the hopes and dreams of this place now rest on the shoulders of a handful of teenagers. A victory could send star player Kevin onto a brilliant professional future in the HCL. NHL. HCL. What the hell? I don't even know. What does that even stand for? It will mean everything to Matt, a scuffering 15-year-old treated like an outcast everywhere but on the ice, and it will justify the choice that Peter, the team's general manager, and his wife Carrie made to return to his hometown and raise their children in this beautiful but isolated place. So I am very excited to read The Bear Town by Frederick Backman in my April TBR. And guys, those are the 20 books that I would like to read in the month of April. And I hope you guys have really enjoyed this vlog. If you have read any of these books, just drop it down in the comments. Let me know what you guys feel about the books that I want to read in the month of April. And let me know if you guys like the way I actually broke them down into genres this time. And I will make sure that I do that in every TBR video that I give you guys. And again, if you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Become a Yolanda's Books family. And guys, let's finish up our March TBR so that we can do our April TBR. Have a great day, guys. Happy reading.